what do you need? You say, well, the Bahamas, it's like, oh, that's nice. That type of stuff. And so what it does, it makes doing ministry in the Bahamas even harder because nobody, well, I should say nobody. Most people, they discount the fact because you have beach on the outside, blue water and sun, that equals God. And no more equals God than mountains and, all other stuff equal God. And so just because we have those aesthetic beauties, our country, even being called a Christian nation, is very struggling spiritually. And because of history of how they've done Christianity. And that kind of introduces me to what I'm going to share with you tonight is, growing up in the Bahamas, you see a lot of religion. I was born in Nassau, raised there. People think they're doing the right thing because that's what they had done to them by their parents and so on. So you have history of legalism, religion, and all these rules, regulations of Christianity. If you don't do these certain things, you don't look a certain way, then you're not a Christian. No caring what goes on here, but just as long as you look good, you're okay. And so, growing up here, you just watch the culture and you saw the shift. And I just remember growing up and getting older. I was in my early 20s. I was out of college. I, had my plan, my desires, my goals. I wanted to be, retired when I was 35 years old, playing golf on in Florida, some golf course, and living the dream. That was my goal. Make a lot of money, do it quickly, live a good life. Still being a Christian, of course, but I wanted my goals, those things. And so I was in the Bahamas watching our culture, and you saw this very young nation. We have a 400,000 population, 65% under the age of 25. Okay, so if you do, who's a math major? Anyone? A math genius? What's 65% under, age 25, a population of 400,000? It's incredibly young country, a lot of very young people. And the problem with that is that most of those young people grew up watching the older generation do religion, and they didn't buy it anymore. They didn't believe it anymore. They really didn't give God credit anymore because they're like, that's a scam. What I saw you all do, what I've seen you all do in the name of God, it was a scam, and I don't want any part of that. So they basically, you see the shift of the youth culture doing this and turn away from God. And I don't blame them for that because they were introduced to something that was not God. They were introduced to idolatry. They were introduced to, pastors who were adulterous, but yet still being pastors of churches. They saw their own family structure. I mean, in the Bahamas, it's very common for a man who is married, if he stays married, to have what they call sweethearts. And that's the common term in the Bahamas. So when I worked in the jewelry business, I'd have guys come in that they say, this is for my wife, so put the W on the bow here, and this can be for my sweetheart, and this can be for my backup. So it's a very blatant thing that there's no monogamy in family units, very, very seldom. And so what it does is just creates a family structure that is crumbling and decaying very quickly. Last year, statistically, we had 75% of all births in our country were to girls that were single. 75%. So there again, if you are a math person, that will tell you a lot about the direction that the country is headed. So I was in my mid-20s, and you're watching the youth, you're seeing the fathers aren't stepping up. If there's even fathers in the home, they're failing their families. The church is not stepping in and being God's hand in the communities, whatever. They're just, it's about the money type of thing. And so I felt God called me into ministry, and I did not want to go into ministry because I never intended to do ministry. I intended to be a guy on the golf course, playing golf. That was my goal. And so I feel God calling me. He's knocking on my heart. He's doing these things, bringing people in my path. I'm flying all over the country, America. I was buying clothes and all kind of goods, shipping them back to the Bahamas in containers. That was my job, just flying all over America, buying stuff and shipping it. And everywhere I went, no matter if I was in a garment district in New York or LA or Dallas, Minnesota, wherever I was, or on a plane, on flying, I was always with somebody talking about youth ministry. It was the weirdest thing. I'm talking like all the time. And just random conversations. I'm like, this is just crazy, because I knew what God's doing. And I feel him doing it. I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. So we're like, for a whole year, I'm just like, not doing it, not me. And, I had an apartment in West Palm Beach. And between here and there, I'd stay in West Palm. And so I was in my apartment, and this was near the end of that year. And I'd been God started to move things out of my life that I thought were important, type of things, that these are what I value. And God just slowly started to move these things away until it really wasn't important anymore. And as I got softer towards God's calling, this is when God started to really turn the heat up. So it was 2:38 in the morning. I was laying in my apartment. I woke up, and I don't know if anyone's ever had God give them a vision or, speak to them and show them clearly what he wanted to do, but that happened to me that night. God woke me up, and he showed me the vision of Camp Bahamas. Now, I didn't know it was going to be called at the time. I knew what I saw. And the weird thing about that was I'd never been to camp, never saw camp, never was one of those kids that was much of a youth group kid, kind of like standing outside of youth ministry, just not so I could look good, look the part, check my box and go do what I got to do. And so here I am feeling God calling me, knowing what he wants me to do, but I'm like, I am not equipped for this, You always hear that saying, when God doesn't equip the call or whatever. I was not equipped to do this at all. I was like, not that guy. And so I resigned my job that next week, and I told my dad, my uncles I worked for, that I was going to go to seminary and get trained for youth ministry. And so I did that. And for 2 years I got trained and worked in youth ministry, worked in junior high. Loved junior high ministry. It's awesome. Love it. And so I did that for 2 whole years. 12-year-olds are great. Fantastic. He's nearly a freshman, he says. That's good. See, he's perfect. Junior high. Love these guys. Because they'll do anything for anything. But that's what I did. And so for 2 years, I got trained and worked at a camp and saw camp and actually worked in Missouri at Kennecott. Wait, Missouri. Kennecott. I mixed up there. Yeah. Missouri, right now, with Joe White at K2, and me and Joe became really good friends. And he's actually on my advisory board now, so I call him and ask him his opinion all the time, what I'm doing wrong, and stuff like that. But that's where when I walked on that camp, and I saw everything. I was like, this is exactly what I saw. I was like putting flesh on the bones of what I saw. I was like, I was keeping everything. You give you all the counselors all this packets. So I kept everything and made copies of everything. I'm just gathering all the information I get like a sponge. I said, this is what I gotta do. So after seminary, I became a youth pastor in Tennessee for 2 years, junior high. And I don't know why God put me in Tennessee. Didn't understand it. I thought I was ready to go to the Bahamas. I was waiting to go, and all the doors just shut. Everything just shut down. I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to Tennessee. Didn't know why. But God always has a plan for your life. And I learned very quickly that you don't question God. When you start to debate God, you become disobedient automatically when you start to debate. And God speaks to you clearly, and you know it's God, and you question it, and you start to debate him, you become disobedient. So I learned very quickly that when God speaks to me and I know it's God, I obey, and that's what I do. And so when he told me Tennessee, I said, great, I'll go to Tennessee. Didn't know why, but I'll go to Tennessee. So there I was for 2 years doing junior high ministry again. And after 2 years, I could feel God telling me it's time to move, time to go. And so I didn't understand why, because I was actually very happy in Tennessee. I was like, this is great. Got a great church. The youth ministry was growing. Everything was great. And he said, no, it's time to go. And so I didn't understand that either, except from the day I left until now, that church has been our biggest supporter. And you all ate in the dining room because that church gave most of the money to build that. And so, you look back and you see God's hand all the way through it. So we left there. We raised support for 2 years as missionaries trying to start out. I didn't know what that was like. I thought it would be like, hey, I'm going to do a camp in the Bahamas. It'd be like, what do you need? How much do you need to do that? And I thought it'd be that easy. And I'm like, this is hard. It took us 2 years just to get enough support to where we could even think about moving back here and start. And so in 1999, we moved back to the Bahamas, and we started with a group of 24 from Greensboro, North Carolina, and they were our first mission trip ever. And so we just did, we were on an island up north in Spanish Wells from here, and we did hurricane relief, widows and shut-ins. We did stuff for them, fixed their homes up, painted it, did their yard work. We worked in the communities surrounding Spanish Wells and the Haitian communities, did Vacation Bible School, did communities there. And so we did that for a couple of years. Then in 1998, we started doing day camps where we 2002, sorry. We brought in all the teenagers for the day throughout the week and did day camps. They go back home at night and then bring back in the next day. And that kind of really got our hearts going towards doing full-blown camp. So in 2003, we started our first year of overnight camping for the week. And we had 28 campers our first week ever. And we were like, this is great. We have 28 Bahamian teenagers coming to camp Bahamas. This is fantastic. You know, looking back now, you're thinking 20 is not a lot of people. You know, what do you do with 28? But for us, it was huge. We're like, this is fantastic. And so we're on this little tiny island up north here. It's about 1.5 miles long, half-mile wide. I'm related to everybody on the island, literally. They're all my cousins. And so we're doing ministry on this island. And the next year we have, 40-some, 50-some campers. And next year we have close to 60, 70 campers. We're starting to grow. We're taking over this island every summer. These kids it's a very small island to understand. And so when we're there, it's like we're doing basketball on the church basketball court, going to the community field playing baseball, whatever else, going out to the beach. We're just all over the place. So it became very apparent that we need to make a shift. And right about that time, God opened up the place right here in Tarpon Bay. We drove through that yesterday, came through there. There's a hotel there. We leased that for 7 years, and that's where we did camp. And right in the middle of all of doing camp like that, we were still living in Spanish Wells, but moving everything up here overnight to start camp the next day every summer, besides running mission teams up there. And so it's just a lot of driving back and forth, packing up, unpacking, doing this. It was very hard doing camp that way. And so halfway through that, I got a little disillusioned with everything. Like, okay, God, I'll do what you want me to do, but this is just not fun anymore. This is hard. I was like, this is difficult, and it's not, this is really what I thought it would be. And so, you have a little pity party there. You have your own moment with God, and then about 2 weeks later, God wakes you up and does something huge, and you feel like an idiot. So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from a Christian businessman in Nassau. He says, I want you to come meet with me. I said, all right. And I used to work for him. He was my first employer out of college, and very wealthy man. And when I first started doing camp, I called him when I first started, and I said, hey, here's what I want to do. Gave him the whole business plan, wrote that out, here you go. And I asked if he'd help me. He goes, nope. I was like, oh, okay. And I really thought I'd be like, yes, what do you need? There you go. That didn't happen. So it was like literally 8 to 10, 9 years, 10 years later, he called me. And he said, Richard, he goes, I've been watching you. He said, you've been faithful. You've done what you said you're going to do, and you haven't stopped. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy your property. And so we're on this property right now. He said, I'll pay for it, do the survey, give you the deed, you just go build camp. And he did that. That was 9 years ago. And we got this property. There was absolutely nothing on this property. It was just a bush from that road. There was no beach. It was just bush to rock. That's what it was. And 2 tractor lines, one down that side, one down this side. And when you drive this way, Palmetto Point, you see the 2 houses up here on the right before you go around the bend? There's a road right there that goes all the way out to the bay. And it stops at a big hill, and the hill just kind of drops off. For 6 weeks straight, we drive out there, unload all the chainsaws, machetes, all the food, whatever, walk down the hill, walk across the waterfront, come to where the tractor survey line was, come in and start cutting bush. Now we did that for 6 weeks, every day. And if you forgot something, you have to walk back to along the waterfront, up the hill, get in the bus, reverse all the way up to the road, go get it, come back in and start over again. So for 6 weeks, that was our life. And coming in every day at the beach, where the beach is now, and just cutting in. For 1 year, we cut from there over to the hill over here until we underbrushed it all and cleared it out. Then the next year, Rod was the very first mission team we had come ever, as far as building.